Hello again. Just wanted to share some more of my experiences. These are not new experiences, but I do need to share these to get a better perspective of what's going on with me and the shift in general. Keep in mind when I'm talking about these things that they occurred within the greater me, the I am. None of it was happening outside of me, even as I perceived that it was at the times where these events happened. That being said, these are some of the events that have caused this evolution in me and my own personal shift. This has been some of the main things causing it. Up until 3 years ago, and somewhat after that, I had really big ego to the point of being a split personality. I would have like a war going on inside of my head, arguments between the different pieces of my brain just going back and forth. And, I didn't know it was really ego per se. I just thought I had a split personality and would eventually be crazy. But that being said, well, truly, ego separates us from who we really are, and that was separating me from who I truly was and truly am. When I'm one with everything, my ego dissolves and I'm peaceful, accepting, and loving. None of these things existed when I had a large ego. There was not really any peaceful moments. 2 years ago, I saw a UFO. I'd been pretty interested in the UFO phenomena as an outsider perspective, just wanting to know what it was. Some of my family members had seen them, some of my friends had seen them. There's all these shows on TV about them, books. There had to be something there. I knew there had to be something there, and I pretty much had that shown to me in the following 2 years it's a real experience. Some people have it, some people don't. The first one I saw was like a diamond shaped, looked like it was a shining star, but it was it was inside the Earth's atmosphere and flying, not at super fast speed, but really fast, and it kind of took off, and I was just overwhelmed with joy. Like, I didn't really know that. Knowing what it was at that time, I might not really have wanted to have seen that, because for the next 2 months after that, I had these nights where there would be strange beings in my visiting me during my sleep, or I would have nights where I wouldn't remember anything at all, no dreams, don't even remember being asleep. I would just go to sleep and then I would wake up. There didn't feel like any time had passed between that. And it really felt really dark. Like, I'm some kind of test person or doing tests on me, et cetera, et cetera. Must be this big conspiracy that humans are really slaves to these other beings or whatever, and that's really not true. And really, that is kind of pervasive within the UFO community, is this whole idea that they're exterior beings that are planning something for the enslavement of man or some other plot. There's always something that it could be, that they always say it is going to be, that we're going to get taken away to other planets, et cetera, et cetera. And this stuff really just kind of breaks down when you get outside of the fear of that and realize that they're not outside beings, that they really are part of us. They are our family. They are us. This is really the challenge, is to be able to accept beings that look so different and could be from such a different reality, that we need to accept them as ourselves. It's all about acceptance, that we need to accept these things. That's my view anyways. I'm sure that other people have different views, and that's great. I'm glad they do. These first visitations started pretty much faded away after those several months. Over the next year after that, which would be now a little less than 2 years ago, I saw several different UFOs. Not really verifiable experiences. I've never carried around a camera with me at any point. I've never had the need to do that. The different UFO experiences usually looked like similar to satellites, but they would move around like they were satellites on steroids, just, different points of light moving around to different spaces in the sky, just pretty doing impossible things. Well, earlier this year, some of this had kind of faded away a bit from my consciousness. I still had once in a while the lost time during my nights, but not as much. And it came to this point, and this one experience when I'd started massage school, and it was the second night, and I hadn't slept well the night before, and I wasn't sleeping well at all during that time. I just had a ton of energy, and my body never wanted to shut down, and I just had to kind of run out the clock on my energy. Something was wrong with my body for sure. I don't know exactly what it was, but it seemed to have resolved itself within the following 2 months after this. So I was laying in bed, trying to get to sleep, too much energy, thinking, oh man, I'm going to sleep for a couple hours and have to go to school, exhausted. Well, I don't want to do that, so I'm laying there, tossing around, tossing and turning, as they say, the cliche. Did that all rhyme, or was it just... Okay, moving on. Well, I feel this strange thing, and I'm like, I just asked, I'm like, God, or anybody that's listening to me right now, can you come and help me get this energy out of me? I need to go to sleep. So I'm thinking this. And then, seconds go by, and I feel the weird thing, like a telepathic connect. And I look at the clock, and it says 12:51. So it had been kind of a synchronistic time for me within the few months surrounding this event. On the digital clock, the 15 mirrors the 12. And it also adds up to 9, which is my personal number, or it used to be anyways. Well, when I saw the 12:51, I kind of had like this strange feeling that something was definitely different. So I poked my head up out of bed to look outside my window into my backyard, and there's probably about 10 feet away, there's this tall being with like, very hard to see it because it isn't in our reality. It's like deeper in our reality, and has like this energy kind of floating around it, like it's peeking in from a different dimension. Well, it's got this suit on, and it's really tall and thin, probably about 7 feet tall, really skinny, big eyes, kind of gray. But it's got something, it's kind of holding it like this, and it's pointed at me. Well, as soon as I saw that, my consciousness shifted from my perspective to the being's perspective, and then was seeing in like this total infrared, ultraviolet, couldn't tell kind of vision, looking at me, seeing me through my wall. And my consciousness goes from the perspective back into me, and I start convulsing around, flopping around my bed, feeling like I'm gonna scream. I'm flopping around, I'm laying on my back, I'm just like totally convulsing. And we had talked about Kundalini experiences earlier in the day, and my teacher had said if you have a Kundalini experience, you just have to kind of let the energy flow through you. Don't hold it back. Don't try to stop it. Just let it flow. Well, this thought hit me, and as I started to kind of resist, and I was like, okay, I won't resist. So I just let it go full on. I'm like almost levitating above my bed. I'm flopping so hard, my legs and arms. Well, I wanted to scream so bad, and as I started to do this, I started to scream softly, so I didn't want to wake up the whole neighborhood like it would if I screamed like I wanted to. So I pretty much magically flip over onto my stomach, screaming into my pillow at the top of my lungs. Top is the most. If it had been out loud, it probably would have woke the whole neighborhood and had like and had a 911 emergency at my house. But but so I continue flopping around on my belly, and then I got this really like like a grip on my spine, and it moved up from my spine to my brain, and the energy kind of started to faded, and I kind of like finally stopped moving as much, but I could still feel like the grip. Well, then I was still kind of like locked, and I couldn't really do much. But then my vocal cords started to, and it was like I was being breathed, and my vocal cords moved by themselves. And I go, ha, I can't recreate it now, but I went ha 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 hi in this really really ghastly voice, like it was making me say hi. Really strange cat sounding voice that I made. That was bizarre. But then after that, it faded away. The energy faded away. I still couldn't sleep because I thought I had just had some kind of psychotic experience or something like that, and I didn't really know what to think. So then the moon started to creep into my window, and this was kind of unusual. I'd never seen it there. It's kind of a small part of the sky that I can see through that window. Well, I'm like, okay, good. I'll do a moon meditation. I'll just like stare at the moon. So I get out of bed and I'm sitting there meditating, and I could see in my heater the little molecules being heated up and flung into the air, and it was just, I don't know, like I had heightened senses. But so after a few minutes, I'm staring at the moon. I'm getting the download from the sun bounced off of the moon and into me. My consciousness could see from other perspectives that were off the world, looking at the moon and seeing the sun also, and I was back in my body. And I'm still staring at the moon, and if I had blinked in this, fraction of a second that it happened, I would have missed it completely. But I see this little triangle shaped craft just dart across the sky, just boom, split second. And I was really blown away, and I felt really relieved actually, because it sort of confirmed that it was a real experience that I had had with the being, and that it was indeed an extraterrestrial, if not, like it seemed like it was from another dimension, a multi-dimensional being. What a relief, right? To know that you're not crazy, at least. The parts and pieces fell together, and it all made sense. In the past experiences too, they all made super more sense. Super more sense. Super more sense. But yeah. Okay, go ahead and click over to part 2. Namaste.